Assalamu alaikum rahmathullahi barakatuhu. This is serial 007 of the talks that we have been having, and this will cover further details on the enticing done by the Shaytaan, and we will also cover insha'Allah some of the common questions and give the answers for them insha'Allah. Innal hamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. In the previous talk, we spoke about the Shaytaan poking the newborns and the Shaytaan trying to ruin our salaah, distracting our thoughts from Allah, distracting us from the thoughts of Allah, and also at the time of dying, how the Shaytaan tries to distract our mind away from Allah. Now, let us look at a few more. For example, what happens when we yawn? The Shaytaan enters our body when we yawn. So try and restrain and cover your mouth. The Shaytaan laughs when we make a sound while yawning. I wouldn't like to experiment the sound at the moment. You yourselves know how we leave out a sound at the end of the yawn. There is a hadith, part of which mentions yawning is from Shaytaan. So if one of you yawns, he should try his best to stop it. For if any one of you yawn, Shaytaan laughs at him. So we must restrain our yawn. It's not that you should force to stop the yawn, but to cover our mouth and to take means and measures to try to reduce the yawning. When a person says ha at the time of yawning, the Shaytaan laughs. And we also know that yawns are highly contagious. When we make that heavy sound of yawning, more people end up yawning. Yawning is not in our control, but making that sound when we yawn is makruh and very much in our control. When you yawn and open your mouth, does the Shaytaan go inside you or possess you? And what is the purpose of him going inside you? It is not that the Shaytaan makes us physically yawn, because the vast majority of people yawning is something that the Shaytaan encourages. It also depends on our lifestyle, like if we don't sleep properly or sleep at wrong times, when we are lazy or tired, and when our heart is not attached to the dhikr or salah, dua, etc., it is easier for our minds to wander. So we must work to improve the quality of our dhikr, salah and our dua, and know the meanings and understand what we are saying for it to be affected. Now, there's another thing that is very commonly said by our elders, especially when we were children, that if you don't get up for fajr salah, the Shaytaan will urinate in the person's ear. Remember that? Does Shaytaan actually urinate in a person's ear? Shaytaan urinating in a person's ear is mentioned to a person who sleeps the night until sunrise, and some say that he has missed his fajr. That is the man in whose ears the Shaytaan urinated. Not only this, but we deal with the actions of the Shaytaan as they relate to us. Like we mentioned before, the Shaytaan laughs, he enters, etc., and now he urinates. All this happens in the world of the jinn. We are not able to see it, we cannot hear it, nor can we feel it. Imagine, if we were able to do so, why would the Prophet ﷺ have told us this? The Prophet ﷺ said that this is how the Shaytaan tries to mock us, to make us feel disgusted to imagine that such things are happening. Remember that Shaytaan is present with any one of us in everything that we do. He is also present when we eat food. So it is said, if any one of you drops a mouthful, you should remove anything filthy on it and eat it and not leave it for the Shaytaan. The question arises, does it mean in all cases when food falls down? If you're not able to remove what is harmful in it, then don't eat it. Even if it is clean after falling and we don't eat it, it is not sinful. Understand that. Now it is said that don't leave it for the Shaytaan. What does this mean? The last portion of the hadith which I mentioned earlier says, don't allow the Shaytaan to steal the barakah from you. Now, one thing we must understand, if we have a narration that tells us something, we always take it in the literal sense unless we have evidence to tell otherwise. So I have a very sincere appeal to you all. Just because something makes it strange or odd to us, when we listen to the hadith and the other happenings, it does not mean it is not true. Because if we start interpreting anything in any way that we want, there'll be nothing left of our deen. Okay, the next enticing of the Shaytaan is when he entices someone who is alone with the opposite sex. A man is not alone with a woman, but the third of them is the Shaytaan. It's not about the Shaytaan being physically there. It is about the effects of the waswasa of him noticing you and him knowing that you are there. It is not just restricted to a man and a woman being alone in one place. It could very well apply, especially nowadays, when these people are alone in their conversation, messaging, talking over the phone, etc., and also Facebook. It could also be circumstances in which the people are making themselves vulnerable to the Shaytaan. Now, we should look at this from a spiritual point of view, putting ourselves in a position where we may be vulnerable to the Shaytaan. There's no point in saying, I know I can control myself, I know myself, nobody can do this, etc. But remember, when Adam alayhi salam himself slipped, who are you? And understand that Shaytaan has a lot of experience in taking people astray. He has got the experience straight from Adam alayhi salam, and it will continue till the akhirah. So don't be so overconfident of yourself. Be careful. Now, a question arises, the deception techniques used by the media, the false stories that are given by the media. Should we keep away from such media? No, we don't go and hide somewhere. We don't go to a place where there is absolutely no media or there is no influence of the media. Understand that the Shaytaan can use our own close friends and relatives to try to deceive us. The answer is not to move away from your relatives, Of course, remember, where it comes to friends and bad company, we have to isolate ourselves from them, but not our relatives. We have to understand how the shaitan works, and he may use people to try to mislead us. Just think of alcohol, gambling, and all the other filthy things. These are the tilts used by the shaitan. Right? Okay. Now, previously we said that Iblis asked Allah to give him respite till the Akhirah. The question arises, is Iblis the only one who has been given life till the Akhirah? Do the other evil jinns have death before the Akhirah? Iblis only. It was he himself who asked Allah for respite, and it was given to him only. Allah knows best. Now comes a very delicate issue. Can we tell our kids, or can we inform our kids about the shaitan and its effects? We should realize that children have a very simplistic view of the world, its surroundings, and its concepts. The danger comes when you tell the children of the shaitan, and we try to make them afraid of the shaitan. We don't want them to be scared of the shaitan. We should be aware of the dangers of the shaitan, but we should be empowered in our connection with Allah, and then we can know how the shaitan can be defeated. There's no point in just being scared. So we should educate our kids in order to protect themselves, but not take it to the point that they only become afraid. Like we have this famous bogeyman syndrome. उन्हें देखो, उन्हें आता है, उसकी सूरत कैसी है देखो. Start scaring the children. We develop a sort of a scare tactic in the children. Eat your food, otherwise the shaitan is going to come, he's watching you, etc., etc. We should realize that we have free will, including our children. Allah has given us the ability to either listen to the shaitan or to reject him. Do not push the child to the area of just fear. Help him to choose as the child grows up. Even having an image of the shaitan is absolutely wrong. I remember the times of my childhood when we don't eat, then somebody goes behind the door and makes a noise, like that. And suddenly the parents, look, the shaitan's making a noise, you better eat, otherwise see what's going to happen, he's going to come inside. Now, imagine the type of fear that we build into our children by doing such things. Okay, how do we tell the children about shaitan without scaring them? This depends on their age and their ability to comprehend. When we mention about the shaitan, our normal methodology is what is prevalent in the culture now. Recall the scary movies, the scary aspects of the devils, the demons, the wonderful Halloween, etc. We cannot see the shaitan. We do not have access to him. It is not the question of being afraid of him, but how to protect ourselves from him. So give our kids the correct understanding of the shaitan so that they are vigilant and they are aware that he can lead us away from Allah. We should prioritize. We should lay emphasis on individual personal responsibility should be the first we should do. Introduce the shaitan as a negative influence, not as something to be scared of. It depends on where the child is and how it will take this type of information. They need to be informed about the shaitan and the shayateen. Don't scare them telling about this. Don't expose them to horror. Fear part of it that is common on the social media and in some cultures. Avoid this fear. Understand that the main goal of the shaitan is not to scare us, but to influence us to join him in the hellfire. So instead of scaring, we should take steps to avoid him dragging us into the hellfire. Now we spoke of waswasa. When the shaitan whispers to you, does it sound like your own voice? When he convinces you, is it like your own voice? No. The whispers of the shaitan are not actual voices. This is not how he works. It feels more like thoughts, temptations, etc. And you'll find that sometimes people have difficulty in distinguishing their own bad thoughts from the whispers of shaitan. So details on the whispers of the shaitan will be given as we move on in this course. There is no physical manifestation like you see in the TVs or culture where we we like to give the shaitan a physical body or a form which we can see and access. The shayateen among mankind behave in a way that is disobedient to Allah. That is, people who are disobedient to Allah. They call to the disobedience to Allah, and who helps them? The shaitan helps them in doing the job. So they don't transform themselves into the shape of shayateen. The person adopts the characteristics of the shaitan or the shayateen. Now such people, we cannot call them as shayateen. Many of us do so because they are still human beings. And as human beings, they can realize, they can seek tawbah, and Allah can forgive them. Now, when something good happens, it is from Allah. And when something bad happens, it is from ourselves. This is the ayah. So what we do, we start feeling, if only I had not done that. Or if only I had done this. If something good happens, yes, it is from Allah. But if something bad happens, it is from our own choice. And this goes back to our qadr, the decree. Everything happens by qadr, the will and knowledge of Allah, but we are not forced to make choices. Of course not. In matters that have already happened, we remind ourselves of the qadr of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ has discouraged us from saying, if I had done this, or I could have done that, etc., etc., then this would not have happened. The words, if only, opens the door for the shaitan. We shouldn't go back and overthink those issues. Saying this out of regret for the wrong done is a good thing. Positive regret makes us proactive and makes us go in a positive direction. Negative regret is something which makes us feel hopeless. One more question. Ramadan is coming near. Who is chained up in the month of Ramadan? It is said that the strong shayateen are chained up. The majority of the influence is not there. But there is still influence of the shayateen. It is weakened, but it does not disappear. It doesn't mean that it is removed 100% from your nafs. We are never expected to be perfect ever. We are expected to try our best always, whether it is during Ramadan or out of Ramadan. The influence of the 11 months of the year that the shaitan tries to affect us could make it continue during the month of Ramadan. Inshallah, we'll stop here and we will proceed with the next class where we will take the enmity of mankind versus the enmity of shaitan. Assalamu alaikum rahmathullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma inna nas'aluka إيمانا مستقيما وفضلا دائما ونزر الرحمة وعلما نافعا وأخلا كاملا وقلبا منورا وتوفيقا إحسانا وتوبة نصوحا وصبرا جميلا وأجرا عظيما ولسانا ذاكرا وبدنا صابرا ورزقا واسعا وسعيا مشكورا وذنبا مغفورا وعملا مقبولا ودعاء مستجابا وجنة الفردوس نعيما برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين يا رب العالمين.